Okay, for bleeding the brakes, this is an 11mm nut. It's got to be the only 11mm one on the whole car. And to loosen it, I use a socket because I've had a lot of cars where these things are tough to remove and you end up screwing them up. So this gives the best grip around the whole nut. So put a socket on and loosen it up. Okay, so I loosened up my nut and put my tube on, going into an empty container, and I've got a pressurized thing to pump fluid in, so now all I have to do is hopefully crack the nut and fluid comes out. I'm just going to let it drain for a little while I keep the pressure on the cylinder up front. Okay, this is just a quick look at how I bleed my brakes. This thing called a power bleeder. You actually put the brake fluid in here, and it's like a weed sprayer. It's got a little pump thing on the top, and you pump it up to 10 psi, and it actually pumps the brake fluid down into your reservoir with a special cap that comes with it. It's got a rubber diaphragm that seals it on here. You have to read the directions carefully. You have to hook it up without the brake fluid and pump it up to 10 psi and make sure it's sealed and there's no leaks anywhere before you put the brake fluid in and pump it up. But once you do that, then you can go around to the different wheels and just slack off on the nut and the fluid comes out. You should always start on the caliper farthest from the brake booster, so that would be the right rear. So you do the right rear first, then the left rear, then the right front, and finally the left front. Also, when you're doing the brakes, you should have the ignition on so that the power booster and ABS system is all activated. Okay, after you've bled all your brakes and you turn the ignition back on again, check the pedal, make sure everything feels good, then it's time to take them out and bed the pads in. Now for the brand of brakes I bought, you can actually go online and they have instructions online on how they recommend to do them. Their instructions were 6 stops from 30 to 35 miles an hour in a row. Apparently not super severe kind of stops. And then you take it up to 40 to 45 and do 2 kind of panicky stops. And then you let the brakes cool down for 15 minutes and then you're good to go. So different manufacturers I'm sure have different recommendations, but do make sure you bed your brake pads in properly, and then the job is done. 2 more quickie comments. Number 1, make sure you use the DOT4 brake fluid, and number 2, obviously you can bleed your brakes the old-fashioned way with having your spouse push on the pedal and you wiggle the nut back and forth.